If you're a leader, you definitely know the feeling. That constant line of people at your door, each one bringing you a problem they need you to fix. And that instinct to just jump in and solve it, well, it's strong, right? But here's a thought. What if that very instinct to help is the one thing holding you and your team back?
So let me ask you this directly. Someone from your team comes to you with a challenge. What is your gut reaction? Your first move? Do you immediately start spitballing solutions? Do you tell them exactly what you would do in their shoes? Be honest with yourself, because that answer, it says a whole lot about your leadership style.
All right, let's get into what we call the problem-solving trap. Now, it feels good, it feels productive, but trust me, it's a dangerous cycle that can seriously stunt your team's growth and, frankly, burn you out in the process.
Michael Bungay-Stanier has this brilliant name for this reflex. He calls it the advice monster. You know what I'm talking about? It's that voice in your head that just leaps out the second a problem is on the table, totally hijacking the conversation. It turns you from a leader into an answer vending machine. It means well, for sure, but it's called a monster for a reason. And the damage this monster can do? Oh, it's real. When you are the chief problem solver, suddenly every single thing has to go through you. You become the bottleneck. Your team, well, they stop trying to think for themselves and just kind of wait for your instructions. Their growth hits a wall, and your to-do list just explodes. It's a lose-lose. The legendary leadership expert John C. Maxwell actually has a name for this phenomenon. He calls it the law of the lid. Basically, your ability as a leader puts a ceiling or a lid on your team's potential. So if your leadership is all about just giving answers, you've put a very, very low lid on what your team can actually achieve. The only way to raise their effectiveness is to first raise your own leadership lid. So how in the world do we raise that lid? Well, it takes a pretty fundamental shift in how you see yourself as a leader. It's all about moving from being a commander who just gives orders to being a coach who develops potential.
This quote from the leadership pioneer Warren Bennis just cuts right to the heart of it. A manager, the commander, is great at handling the day-to-day routine. But a leader, the coach, they're the one asking the bigger questions. They're not just solving today's problem, they're building the people who are going to solve all of tomorrow's problems.
And when you lay it out side by side like this, the choice becomes crystal clear, doesn't it? The commander manages the work, which creates dependency. The coach develops the people, which builds capability. One of these paths limits growth, while the other creates an empowered, self-sufficient team. The real question is, which path are you on right now?
So the key tool that gets you onto this coaching path is a concept from the organizational expert Edgar Schein. He calls it humble inquiry. It's this simple but really profound idea that asking the right question is almost always more powerful than giving the right answer. And look, this takes some real courage. When you, as the leader, can actually admit that you don't have all the answers, you create what Schein calls psychological safety. You're basically giving your team permission to be vulnerable, to try new things, to fail sometimes, and most importantly, to learn from it. You can't have real innovation without that safety net. And here's where the magic really happens. Every single time you fight that urge to give advice and instead you ask a great question, you are literally transferring ownership of the problem. You're helping the other person fire up their own brain, find their own insights, and build their own problem-solving muscle. You're helping them create their own wisdom. Okay, so this all sounds fantastic in theory, right? But how do you actually do it? Let's get super practical. We're going to look at a few of the 7 essential questions from Michael Bungay-Stanier's incredible book, The Coaching Habit. Here they are, the 7 essential questions. Now, all of these are amazing for breaking that advice-giving habit, but we're going to laser focus on just 3 that you can literally start using today to immediately change the dynamic of your conversations. First up, how do you even kick off a conversation in a way that's open but also gets right to the point? You need a good kickstart. Just 4 simple words. What's on your mind? It's so incredibly simple, but man, is it effective. It's open-ended, so it invites the other person to share what's actually important to them, instead of you having to guess. It's respectful, and it immediately gets the conversation focused on what really matters. Okay, so once they've shared that first thing, your advice monster is going to be screaming at you to jump in with a fix. You have to fight it. Instead, you're going to use what might just be the single most powerful coaching question in the world. That's it, 3 words. And what else? This little question is pure gold.
Why? Because the first answer is hardly ever the only answer, and it's almost never the best answer. Asking, "and what else?" forces them to think deeper, it uncovers more options, and it keeps you, the leader, in that curious coaching mindset.
All right, so after you've used "and what else," maybe 2 or 3 times, you're going to have a lot of information out on the table. Now it's time to cut through all that chatter and get to the real heart of the issue. This is the focus question, and I want you to pay close attention to those last 2 words, for you. That little phrase brings the focus right back to the person you're talking to. It stops being about some abstract problem and becomes their specific challenge. It makes them stop talking about other people or circumstances and really reflect on what this means for them. Making this shift from commander to coach, it's not just about having a better Tuesday. It's so much bigger than that. It's about the long-term impact you have. It's about the kind of legacy you want to leave behind.
The benefits here are absolutely huge, and they build on each other over time. You stop being the bottleneck, which frees you up to do more important strategic work. At the same time, your team grows in confidence and capability. Their performance gets better, and suddenly you have this reputation not just as a manager who gets stuff done, but as a true leader who builds other leaders.
And this gets to the ultimate payoff. John Maxwell puts it so bluntly: success without a successor is failure. Think about that. A leader's real lasting value is measured by what they leave behind. By coaching, you are actively, intentionally developing the next generation of leaders. You're ensuring the team is strong long after you're gone. So really, it all comes down to this. In every single one of these interactions, you have a choice. Are you going to feed your advice monster and just provide another temporary fix? Or are you going to stay curious, ask one more question, and build a team of capable, confident problem solvers? The first path, it actually makes your job harder. The second one, that's how you build your legacy. The choice is yours.